Have you ever felt a weight on your chest as you're trying to sleep? Why do we see shadows at night when our bodies are frozen? Have you ever been haunted by a paranormal canine? Today, we test the believability of listener-submitted sleep paralysis stories.
Welcome to Believing the Bizarre,
Where we dive into the unknown and the unusual.
and tell you whether or not we find it believable.
That is right. Happy Tuesday. I hope you got some great shut-eye ahead of this sleep paralysis-focused episode.
You need to, because sleep paralysis is terrifying.
Do you have you don't have an experience, do you, or do you?
No.
Okay.
No, I barely dream. Are you kidding me?
I don't even know if you sleep. You just literally
I lay there.
Charlie is the human form of unplugging. He just lays down and just powers down.
Yeah, I go there, my brain just goes off, and then I wake up, I'm like, that was fast.
So I hope you all enjoyed that little thing we dropped on Friday called Bizarre News and Blind Rankings.
Yes, yeah. We put a lot of love into that.
If you liked it, then awesome, because you can look forward to that the fourth Friday of every month until we die.
If you need a news update, we'll be there.
But I hope you enjoyed that. And a reminder, I hope you enjoy our interviews. Jim Harold was our first interview. That will be the second Friday of every month. So we have interviews on the second Friday, and then Bizarre News and Blind Rankings with producer Ben on the fourth Friday of every month. So, and if maybe you missed that, and if you did, go check your feed. It's there waiting for you. Get caught up. We got ties on if you watch it on YouTube.
It's true.
But that said, we've done this episode before. We said, maybe one day if we get enough submissions, we can do a listener submission collection.
It's finally happened.
It's been like 3 years. I went through and I just Command F, sleep paralysis, and cycled through the ones that, and there's many more. I only included 4 in here.
That's exciting.
But there's more. So there's an opportunity for another installation down the road. But let's get this started. So like I said, we have a whole episode on sleep paralysis. So if you haven't already, I recommend you check that out. I can't tell you what episode number or year that it came out.
It's in the past.
It's before now. It's probably in the first 100, I think. I think it's in the first 100.
I think you're correct.
I could be very wrong. I don't know. But just for a quick summary, because maybe you haven't listened to that episode, maybe you've never heard of sleep paralysis before. I want to make sure we're all on the same page so we can all enjoy and be terrified of these listener submission stories. So you're laying down, preferably in a bed, and you wake up and realize that you are completely frozen. You cannot move a single muscle. You cannot turn your head. You cannot speak. You are still as stone. And as if that's not creepy enough, more often than not, people report seeing shadow figures, entities, and the famous old hag in this state. They say that this witch-like, terrifying woman crawls on top of your bed and either strangles you or sits on your chest, causing you to suffocate. Theories range from you're having a paranormal, terrifying experience and are face-to-face with a real-life supernatural entity that preys on those during sleep. And the other theory is that the part of your brain that causes your body not to sleepwalk or move is still active, but your brain becomes conscious. So you can't move, and you're in this like dream-like state where it's very easy to hallucinate and imagine things such as hags and ghosts. All caught up.
Yeah, you said famous old hag, which makes me think of like...
Whoa, careful whatever you're about to say.
No, let me finish. It's like in my head, she's got like this red dress on. She's walking down like a thing, and like people are like, old hag, and she's just like,
It's like everybody's dream. Like if you dream about an award ceremony, like Freddy Krueger's there.
Yes,
the old hag is there. Mm-hmm. I thought you were going to say, this reminds me of this old actress. It's like, let's be careful.
No way.
Okay, so now that we're all caught up, let's move into our first story. This comes to us from Madison.
Okay.
And it takes place in a bunch of places. Alabama, Kentucky, Hawaii, Texas, and Minnesota.
I've been everywhere, man.
Well, I would say that the common thread would be that you sleep most places that you live. You know?
If you need to find a common thread, yes, yeah.
Well, I just mean like the reason there's so many states is if it's an everlasting issue you have, you tend to sleep everywhere you live, hopefully.
You try to. I don't know that's hard for you, but
it is. Even I tend to sleep every now and then. So she says that she was a bit reluctant to submit her experience because she doesn't really know where to begin, to which I would say the beginning. But seriously, I'm glad you submitted, and let this be a moment of motivation to all y'all out there on the fence. Trust me, if you don't know whether to submit your story or not, submit your story. Because even if it's not that great, we'll put a little garlic powder, a little onion powder, and dress it up.
I mean, I would argue that every story is great. That
We've never had a bad story because there's no such thing because it's a raw experience.
Mm-hmm.
You know. So in Madison's words, quote, I have had encounters with what I think are spirits my entire life. As a child, I used to talk to a man outside my bedroom door, and I can tell you in detail what he looks like. He was tall, heavier set, and a very nice mustache. It wasn't until I was about 10 years old that my mom brought up this experience that she noticed, and I described the man to her. She then showed me a picture of her father that had died when she was 18, and until this day, I still believe it's him. After high school, I joined the military, and the sightings seemed to stop for a while. Unquote. So that's kind of a peaceful entity.
Yeah, that's nice.
So when Madison turned 20, she got married, and it seemed almost immediately after that life-changing event that something else came along with it. She started having intense episodes of sleep paralysis. On some nights, she would see a woman in an old 1920s-style dress with a bonnet on. On other nights, she would see our good friend, the Hat Man, or an entity in a hat. Thankfully,
it's like tomato.
Well, no. One is clothing or an article of clothing worn by a spirit. The other is like a known entity.
Yeah.
She claimed the Hat Man, but I don't know if she was saying like the Hat Man. I don't want to read into her words. Thankfully, the Hat Man never seemed evil or sinister or threatening to Madison, and neither did the woman in the 1920s dress. Although she admits the first couple of times they showed up during her sleep paralysis, she was terrified, and I can't blame her for that.
I imagine any spirit showing up during sleep paralysis is terrifying.
A shadow. You know what I mean?
Anything's going to be terrifying.
Probably like a fan, the shadow casted by a fan, or like we have a rocking chair. Yeah. You put like a shirt over it, like, you change clothes and you're too lazy to put it in a laundry basket, so you throw it on the chair. It's pretty spooky.
Looks like a dude.
It's not, I wouldn't be sleeping in this situation, but the clothing, the coat rack by my window.
Oh, yeah.
When you leave. So when you used to leave, you'd see that in the window and you're like, who's standing? I should have bought a fedora
just to make it look like the Hat Man and scare everybody in your house.
Yeah. So I don't blame her. The sensation, not being able to move or scream, sent shivers down her spine and left her feeling helpless. However, the more encounters that happened, the more she realized that these entities were not trying to harm her, and she eventually relaxed. And these sightings during sleep paralysis were on and off for about 3 years, but then she had a new type of encounter. Quote, at the time, I was going through a very difficult time. I had a few miscarriages and was very down on myself. I would have sleep paralysis just about every night, and one night a shadow appeared. For the next few nights, it continually moved closer and closer to my bedside. The last time I saw it, it placed a hand on my arm and grabbed. And not like a small grab. It was like someone gave me the biggest hug. He grabbed me, and in an instant, all anxiety, drama, and doubt in my life was gone. It made me feel like everything was going to be okay. And since then, I have only ever had a few other encounters with sleep paralysis. I have wondered if this entity was my grandfather as well, but I could never see it clearly. Unquote.
That's pretty good.
What do you think, Charlie?
Like we mentioned, anytime you're frozen in a position where you can't move.
We're going to be saying that about every single one. Just a reminder. It's pretty spooky.
But I mean, yeah. But to go on with that, the fact that it grabbed her at the very end, do you think it had these... It was bad intention. I think it was bad intention.
You think it was bad intention?
Yeah.
Even though it drained her... Well, it could be like a trick, right? Like, I'm going to numb you. Like, look here. I'm going to get rid of all your pain. While really it's like... It feels almost like, well, okay. So like if you're a shadow figure, what is the intention? To scare. But when you think of like demonic and possession, it could be like, let me gain your trust.
Yeah.
Look over here. You're numb and I can seep in. Now that's just going off of what you just said. I don't think this thing's demonic. I actually think it could be her grandfather. I'm just saying if you think this isn't good and it's making her feel happy, what would be the end goal?
I think, okay, so... Any emotion helps you make you feel like you're alive, even the painful ones. So if you're going to numb that out, it's almost like you said, making a hole.
It's like him putting on a sad song. I just want to feel something, and I'm going to suck it out of you.
Yeah. It's eating, in a sense. It's taking, it's eating. Maybe I'm reading too much into it.
Could be a grandfather. Could be a really beautiful moment. A bit of a pivot here. Madison says for as long as she can remember, she always had a sense like something bad was going to happen. Or like that building crescendo feeling that something was just around the corner from happening. One Christmas, Madison traveled to Minnesota to visit her in-laws.
Minnesota?
Yeah, we all would drive. Well, I don't know where she's starting from, but... So Madison's husband was deployed at the time, and she thought it'd be nice to join them and enjoy the holidays in the snow.
No.
In her words, we decided to take a weekend trip about an hour from their home and see some other family. We stayed in a hotel nearby, and it was very beautiful, but nothing out of the ordinary. They had large rooms. We slept 6 in one with 2 beds and a pull-out couch. From the moment I stepped into this building, I became nauseated and a feeling of dread all over me. I sat down and my father-in-law asked if I was okay, and I shook it off and I just smiled. We got in our room, and everyone decided to go swimming at the pool, so I was going to go change. I closed the bathroom door, and the light would not come on. Panicking, I opened the door, and I'm sure my mother-in-law saw my face and asked what was wrong. Again, I just said the light wasn't working and told them to stay out while I changed with the door open so I could have some light. Later that night, I had a terrible migraine. We came back from dinner, I took some Tylenol, and just completely passed out in the bed. Everyone else was tired from the trip and decided to turn in as well. I figured I'd be fine having 5 other people in the room and nothing more would happen. Then, sleep paralysis happens, but instead of seeing the normal people I see, there were these large shadow figures all over the room. I tried to scream, but I couldn't move. My chest felt as if someone were standing on it and I couldn't breathe. None of them touched me, but the last thing I heard before waking was, "I know you." The next morning, I left and stayed with my other family at their home. I couldn't go back. That was one of my worst experiences. I often have encounters that aren't so scary and thankfully don't seem that threatening. Unquote.
Oof.
I know you.
Oof.
Things you don't want to hear.
No. I wonder if they're different because she's in a different location.
I don't know. I guess,
mean, yeah.
well, then it's like if you think about the internal versus the external, like if this is truly a paranormal experience, then that would make sense.
Yeah.
Whereas if it's just her and it's like the brain is on, but the body is off. I mean, although I guess like, you know, where it's like if you're a writer or you're an artist going somewhere new, it gives you a different stimuli and people like, you know, like certain musicians like going to certain places to record music. And so maybe I'm not like not saying it's like an art of sleep paralysis, but she's in a new place.
New stimulus.
Yeah. So I don't know. This episode is purely presenting listener stories. We already did our sleep paralysis episode, and I feel like I was pretty low on it, so I'm just going to be a mouthpiece for listeners.
It was very scientific, but also it's like where does the science stop? Where does the paranormal begin? It's hard to tell in this case.
We're somewhere in the middle.
It's true.
Speaking of mouthpiece, I know you weren't a trumpet player, but dude, during the fall months when it was cold, like I became best friends with a mouthpiece. I'd be like hugging that thing, keeping it in my pocket, kissing it.
It wasn't as cold as a saxophone player.
Did you have a reed?
Yeah, I had a reed, but also it's one of my front teeth are f***ed up.
Well, you win some, you lose some. All that shake a tail feather. So story number 2 comes to us from Alex in Chi-Town.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So here's Alex's story. Quote, I randomly get sleep paralysis and have gotten it for as long as I can remember. Not every night, but every few months or so. It normally freaks me out a little because I can't move no matter how hard I try. And like you guys said in the episode, the 30 seconds it happens literally feels like 10 minutes. But usually when I snap out of it, I come back to my senses and I'm like, okay, that happened again, but it's all good now. It was just a dream, and then go back to sleep. However, last night was different. It was the first time I've ever actually seen something while in sleep paralysis. I think this is because it happened as I was falling asleep rather than waking up. Normally it happens when, for some reason, I'll awake during the night and I'll still be stuck in a dream and I can't open my eyes or even move. I can sometimes still move a little in my dream, like my arms or my hands, but my body can't move in the physical world until I snap out of it. My voice, though, never works, dream or reality. Quick scene setup. I was sleeping in my girlfriend's apartment. We were on the bed, and the dog, shout out Koa, was on the couch at the time. It's probably like 1:30 or 2 in the morning. It's a studio apartment, so it's basically all just one room. The bed is a little tucked away to the back left of the room, and when entering, if you took a step off of it and turned right, it's a straight shot to the front door. Since it's basically all one room, the bed is behind the TV stand, and the couch faces it from the opposite wall. This will come into play kind of at the end. Anyway, yesterday it happened as I was falling asleep, so I was able to have my eyes open. Well, fighting to keep them open. Like I'd been awake for 2 days and my body was telling me to sleep, but my mind was telling me to open my eyes. As this is going on, the, quote, dream began. I started to hear what sounded like the rustling of a plastic bag, or maybe like swishy pants, coming down the hallway. I couldn't really make it out because it wasn't a rhythmic sound. It was almost chaotic. Naturally, my first reaction was, great, Koa's going through the trash again. And I tried to sit up to see where she was. Of course, though, I couldn't. The only thing I was able to move were my eyelids, so I started blinking and struggling to move anything in my body to snap me out of it. All of a sudden, I found myself standing in the middle of the room, frozen, staring at the front door. I didn't realize it then, but now I'm thinking this was the point that I completely slipped into the dream, because obviously I wasn't able to get out of bed. As I'm standing there, I can hear the swishing sound getting closer and closer to our door, like it was walking down the hall. The feeling in the room was dreadful, like if you could turn fear into a candle and you lit it. My body was frozen and I was standing there hoping that whatever the hell this thing is, it isn't going to come in our room, that maybe it would pass the door. But only for maybe a couple of steps, then it stopped for a split second and headed back in our direction, almost as if it felt me staring at the door, like it knew I was there. As it arrives, I can see the shadows under the door, but I still can't make anything out. Again, I try to move, try to see where Koa is or my girlfriend or anything I can defend myself with, but still, I can't move. I started fighting, but then I changed places again. Instead of standing in the middle of the room, I'm back in my bed, doing the same thing as I was before, staring at the door. Something was different though. The swishing sound was now inside the door. It was no longer in the hallway. This is when I hear my girlfriend say, "Is that Koa?" This terrified and confused me beyond belief, because I've had sleep paralysis plenty of times, and I've never heard anyone speak to me during an episode, especially not the person next to me in real life reacting to what I was experiencing. At this point, I'm starting to doubt that it was just a dream. Could it be real? Is someone or something in our apartment right now? I try blinking and blinking, trying to wake up or move or literally anything other than just lay there. Suddenly, the room felt quiet. No swishy sound, no snoring, no outside noise, just silence. But then I saw it. Only able to move my eyes, I peered from my bed height up. Standing just behind the TV, but kind of peeking around it, was a dog. Not a cute little fluffy puppy, a dog. It was like a bulldog, but the size of a mastiff, and it looked so mean. This thing was jacked, easily hit the 6% body fat goal, and it was held tightly on a leash, but this shadow person thing. It was weird because the dog was so detailed, but the owner, or whatever was there, was just a shadow. Because of the TV, I could only really see where its right hand held the leash, and the top of where its face would be, from the bottom of the nose up. At this point, if I could do anything but open my eyes, I'd be pissing my pants. So it ended how most of my sleep paralysis episodes end, with me trying to scream for help. I figured this time my best bet was the dog, so I tried shouting, "Koa! Koa!" But per usual, nothing came out. I'm stuck staring at this giant dog, trying with everything I have to scream and get my dog's attention and be like, "Are you seriously not seeing this?" Then the shadow thing raises its left arm to its face, and what appeared to be in its hand was a little red light. It wasn't like glowing eyes or casting fire magic. It was just a small, dim, red circular light. Then it hit me. The light was a camera. I suddenly got the feeling a picture was going to be taken, so I shut my eyes as fast as I could. And just as I did that, through my eyelids, there was a flash, like someone just turned all the lights on and then quickly off again. I opened my eyes, and it was over. The fear, the dread, it was gone, just like the dog and its shadow owner. I could hear the AC going and cars outside again. I now could move and turned over to see my girlfriend sleeping peacefully next to me. Then sat up and saw Koa sleeping peacefully on the couch. A sense of relief fell over me that it was just a dream. But damn, that was the most realistic sleep paralysis I've ever experienced. Let's just say it took me a little while to fall back asleep. This time, though, I decided to face the wall. Unquote.
Wow. That demon, that shadow figure, has a picture of Alex on his wall while with his eyes shut.
Honey, who's that? Oh, just some
My
kid.
new friend.
I was just checking out. It was like the dog, drew me over there.
Yeah,
And,
that's weird though. I wonder what the picture was. That's there's a lot of elements to that. I'm like, wow, that's really interesting.
He left like a personal note at the end where it's kind of like, I believe in paranormal things, but I do think there's a good chance it's just my own mind psyching me out. But the camera aspect of it is very interesting. Like,
yeah,
you'd almost expect like he woke up and like his girlfriend was taking a picture, which is a weird thing.
Yeah,
unless like I was cuddled with the dog and I looked cute sleeping, so she's like, "Oh, that'll be a cute picture." But
or even just like, I don't know, maybe like a text message going off and like the the light flashes sometimes for people.
Yeah,
maybe like that.
Yeah. I don't know. I've heard stories about people visiting haunted places, and when they leave, they find pictures of themselves on their phone sleeping. What? That's the kind of stuff that this makes you think of, where it's just really creepy.
Oh, I hate that.
There was like a haunted hotel. I don't know if it was
I might have heard that a similar story.
I don't know if it was like a podcast I was listening to, or I was reading about it. But it's like this old couple who I think they had like, it wasn't like a cell phone where you would check the next day.
Yeah,
it was like they probably had like a digital camera.
I think,
and then like they found out it was like taken from like the corner of the ceiling. Like it was like corner of the ceiling down on the bed.
Is that a story that one of us told on this podcast?
No, I listened. Well, you know what?
I think it.
God, we were like 215 episodes in, man. I don't know.
It sounds really familiar.
I might have said it before though. Like I might have told you about it. For some reason, I don't think it was us, but I don't know.
Not convinced. That's okay. I wonder. Okay, so let's pretend for a moment that this story is 100% paranormal factual.
Okay.
Do you think that this entity coming down the hallway, I think it's just something passing by. Like it's not particularly looking for our narrator, but it's passing by looking for energy to siphon.
Do you think that's the same entity as the dog and the owner?
Yes.
Because you think about it, it's like when people walk their dogs, I mean, most people don't get dressed up to walk their dog. It's like, let me throw on the comfy pants. No, seriously.
Yeah.
And like, if you think 90s, 80s and stuff, it's like, give me the Nike, like joggers and like those like sweatpants have always been a thing. Mm-hmm. But like joggers are newer. I feel like in 80s, 90s, it was like, give me those like black Adidas
those
workout
Nike swishy pants
with the white stripes down the sides.
Swishy pants.
And they go when you walk. So I think this is Ghost from the 80s and 90s.
It's a
with a roided out dog.
It's a scary story. It could be scary.
I don't know. I could see how it's like it's tying into something from his real life though, because he has a dog. He takes a dog on walks.
Yeah.
The red light though, and the camera is, and for him to have the foresight to know, I don't think I would. I don't think I'd be like, what's that? I'd look closer, more intensely.
I think if we were going to go on the scale for this one, I guess I'll wait on this, right?
Yeah.
I'll wait.
Yeah. All right, well, let's get to our third story. Hey, what's up, Bizarros? Are you looking to add a new paranormal podcast to your repertoire? Charlie and I highly recommend the Cryptids, Creeps, and Conspiracies podcast for a lot of the same reasons you like BTB. The host, Natasha, dives into genuine paranormal encounters, aliens, cryptids, conspiracies, and has a huge range of exciting guests. Personally, I suggest checking out episode 12, not only because it takes place near our neck of the woods, Youngstown, Ohio, but it has a fantastic dogman encounter that we think you'll love. Here's a clip from Natasha, and remember, you can listen to the Cryptids, Creeps, and Conspiracy podcast wherever you listen to podcasts.
Hey, you. Yeah, you. Do you like cracking into curious creatures? Perhaps you ponder the paranormal. Ever entertain the existence of extraterrestrials? Or have you ever just wanted to hear genuine encounters of any kind? If you have answered yes to any of these questions, then Cryptids, Creeps, and Conspiracy podcast is right up your alley. Open your mind as we take a journey to uncover the mysteries behind kooky critters, spooky specters, enigmatic entities, and the controversial conspiracies that surround them.
All right, this story, our third story, comes to us from Zachariah in San Francisco, the home of Brock Purdy.
Yes, his home, where he throws balls.
So Zachariah is about 15 years old, lives in San Fran, in an old wooden Victorian house that he says was majorly impacted by the 1906 earthquake.
I love San Francisco. I've been there before. I really enjoyed it.
No, I've never been to California, so. And I invited you to LA
today, yeah.
And I mean, I'm not even going, but I invited you.
Yeah.
But there's oh my God, it's going to be Hawthorne Heights.
That sounds so
the
fun.
The Matches,
yeah.
Red Jumpsuit Apparatus, Cartel. There's
another one.
Yeah. Seosin? Was that on there? I made that up.
I think you made that on.
I have the picture.
Yeah, show me the picture.
No. Seosin's on there. Stick to your guns. I don't know who that is. Be Amberlin. Yeah, it's the show on August 31st in LA, and I want to go.
It'd be cool to go.
Anyways, we'll be here. So, for the past 7 years, Zachariah claims that he's been sensitive to the paranormal.
Cool.
Like many who encounter the unknown and the unusual, Zachariah's encounters have ranged from small fleeting moments to all-out terrifying experiences.
I could only imagine. That'd be terrifying.
When he was 8 years old, he would see balls of light floating around. We also get a little layout from Zachariah, as is required from any BTB episode. But there's no Reddit here.
Okay.
Just plenty of bad juju. No quantity or quality. Anyway, here's a quote from Zachariah. To get to the front door, you need to go up steps. Once you open the front door, you go up more steps to enter the hallway. If you go to the right, down the hallway, you can get to my room, and a room with bay windows and a great view of Twin Peaks. If you choose to go straight, you enter the TV room. In the TV room to the left is one of those old sliding doors, but we never close them. Back to that later. To the right, there's another door, which leads to another room, my old room. Back at the top of the stairs, if you choose to go left, you'll continue down the hallway. The first door to your left is a closet. I don't know what's in the closet. Then the first door is to your right is my old room, which connects to the TV room. The third door down to the left is the bathroom, adjacent to my old room. The fourth door to the right is my parents' room. The fifth door down the left, adjacent to my parents' room, is the washroom, which I think is the bathroom. And finally, you're in the hallway. You're in the kitchen.
I'm so confused.
All this tells me is this is a great piece of property to have in San Francisco. Somebody has hella equity. So that's
sounds like a generational house to me.
Yeah. And to the right of the kitchen, the living room with a wall between the two rooms. And the kitchen in the back, if you continue straight from the hallway, you get to the back bathroom and the back door with stairs going down to the backyard and stairs going up to the neighbors.
It sounds like you could play a great game of hide and seek in this house.
Yeah. And with ghosts. All right, now that we got that down, let's move on to one of his experiences. When Zachariah was 8 years old, he woke up to get a glass of water. As he was heading down the hallway, which y'all should know exactly where he's going,
yeah.
In the corner of his eye, he caught a greenish-yellow ball of light. He said it was no bigger than a typical golf ball. Intrigued, he decided to follow the light. Charlie, would you follow the light?
No. I go back to bed. Water. Yes.
Oof. Just dry mouth that.
Or follow the ghost light that is probably the ghost of a sailor's wife or something.
This thing doesn't have a map, dude. He's going to get lost in this house.
Yeah, he's got no mini map on his side there.
So he's tracking this light. It leads him into his kitchen, which is technically where he should
have gone there.
Yeah. But then he went through the doorway, connecting the two rooms and back in the living room. This lasted a little while until Zachariah's mother woke up and asked what he was doing. Zachariah told her that he was following this green ball. He went to show her, but at this point, it had disappeared.
I was going to make a joke. Following my new friend, mother.
What friend?
Yeah.
2 years later, he had another experience while showering one evening. Mid-shower, the water started to get incredibly cold really fast. He wanted to suck it up, embrace the cold water like a champ. Should give him credit for because I'm a wimp with cold water. You're not going to catch me doing cold plunges. But once all the shampoo was out of his hair, he turned off the water, but he noticed something strange. He could still hear water running. He opened the shower curtain and saw the faucet for the sink was on full blast. The door had been closed, and their floors, remember this is a 1906 house, the floors were super creaky, so if someone had walked in, he would have heard it.
It's definitely a ghost of a sailor.
Sailor ghost?
Mm-hmm.
That's a twofold, because they're like, oh, a cold spot, it's a ghost. So something went in there and turned the faucet on, and it made his water run cold.
Mm-hmm.
That has now officially become the last place I ever want a ghost experience. If I have to be in a cold shower,
yeah.
It's just a very vulnerable time.
Yeah, you are naked.
Most places in the bathroom are not a good time. I know there's like you open the medicine cabinet and then you close it and it's behind you. Give me that all day, every day over if I'm on the toilet or if I'm in the shower.
I even now, I know there's no room in my bathroom for someone to be behind me because it's very small.
Yeah.
But I'm still like, Stephanie always leaves it open. She leaves it open every fucking time, the medicine thing.
Mm-hmm.
But I like close it slowly. I'm like, oh, and then it's finally closed. I'm like, okay.
Well, you just can't do it fast because that's where like you hit the boom sound.
Yeah.
And there's someone behind you. No, I'm ironically, I'm very intimate with your bathroom because I had the same bathroom.
Yes, you did.
For about 2 years.
Yeah.
Not that I didn't live in Charlie's house, but it's like they hit Command C, Command V.
Our houses were very similar.
Yeah. The bathroom, at least like that bottom
The first
section.
layer, like
the the hallway, the 2 bedrooms, the living room. So, a year later, Zachariah started seeing an entity. In his words, quote, about 1 year later, I started to see a quarter to a half of an apparition of a man. First, I would see pant legs, or maybe even a jacket. He was always in the hallway or moving away from me. It feels more now that he was shy or just timid. One night, I was alone in my house, and I was playing online video games in my room with some of my buddies. We were on a Discord video chat. We were about an hour into our gaming when our buddy decided to share a Spotify link to the Discord chat. All of us almost simultaneously went to the link, meaning we had to go back to Discord. Now, we were all talking about the song that was playing, and my friend says, Zach, what the hell is that behind you? I don't turn around because I think he's just messing with me. But in case, I look at my camera, and in the background, I see a man in a late 1800s suit with a hat on, whitish and clear. I turn around, and he looks almost surprised and steps out of view and steps in the TV room. In the background, my friends are freaking out and yelling at me to go see and take a photo. I go into the next room, and he's just gone. He's not harmed me or my family yet, and I hope not. We call him George. He seems to be scared of having his photo taken. I've tried numerous times to take his photo, but he always vanishes into air, sort of a mist whenever I try. I know he's smart because he will play with me and my family. What I mean by this is he'll move shoes to other rooms or socks when on laundry day and everything's out. My cats don't like him though. They puff their tails up and they hide. So I think he figured out my PC also has a camera, even though I've tried to capture him that way. Jump a year and I'm now 14 and everything that happens is normal for the most part. But pretty recently, like 2 months ago, I was sleeping in my room and I was in a drowsy state of mind, like about to fall asleep when something grabbed my foot. I'm not fazed, and in my mind I'm thinking, what just grabbed my foot? In a playful way, trying to suppress the stronger emotions of fear so I could play it off cool. I say, George? And I instantly feel like someone about 40 pounds sitting on my head. My vision goes blurry, and I can't move. And I hear all these noises like radio frequency and static and sort of distant yelling. This feels like it lasts for an eternity. Eventually, it stops, and I glance at the clock, and it says 3:42. This now continues. This happens every night. I think it's sleep paralysis, but I don't think it works like that. I find it strange that 1 minute I'm awake and drowsy, next I'm awoken from this sleepy spell, and almost in a second I can't move, and I'm hearing radio and screaming. It's honestly so creepy. I've talked to my mom about it, and she says not to worry. She's kind of mom who doesn't go to the doctor unless I break something. Last night, I was sleeping with my cat, and he was tucked in my armpit, and I felt this tingling sensation all over my body. I didn't find it weird, but then at the same instant, I got hit in the head and put in the sleep paralysis. I think something, or maybe a poltergeist, is like putting a spell on me, and is present in the room because this time, I could pet my cat when it happened, but only with my fingertips, and I felt him get puffy and sprint off the bed. When the spell broke, my cat was gone, but I didn't see a thing. Just a little note on sleep paralysis. You never want to open your eyes. You'll hallucinate or see things. You can move your fingertips, but not any major body parts like your arms, legs, or torso. You are stuck. You can try moving your fingertips over and over to get out of the spell faster or to wake your body up, but it's not 100% effective. I see George almost every day, whether it's a pant leg or a hat, he's here. My mom's seen him too, and we have a shared experience. One day, my mom picked me up from school because I wasn't feeling well, and we walk in the front steps, open the door, and at the top of the stairs, we see a full apparition of George, walking away to the side railing. Me and my mother slowly go up the stairs, and a heavy sensation is in the air at the time. He continues walking down the hallway into my room and disappears. My mother says she's been seeing him moving a sock from her room once a night. End of story. It's more than sleep paralysis going on here.
Yeah, he's got a lot of stuff going on, but that George thing is really interesting.
I would hate the radio static and distant screaming. It feels like
So
something's
scary.
trying to connect with you.
Yeah.
Like it's like this distant trying to reach you, and it's just like, I'm trying to
It seems
sleep.
like he's pretty open, though.
Oh,
So,
yeah, he likes this stuff, and I think there's an interest in it. But I also but I mean, it's also like he's admitted to trying to play it cool, too. Like,
who's he trying to play it cool for? George?
George.
He's a ghost.
No. I think he's trying to not give in to the fear.
Okay. All right,
I don't
that
think he's
makes
trying to be
sense.
cool, like likable. It's I don't want to be crapping my pants right now.
Playing it cool to me sounds like I'm playing it cool for a girl. Like
No.
no one's there.
Playing it cool, like I'm not going to show my hand that I'm terrified right
Okay.
now. I'm not
That
gonna
makes more sense.
Yeah.
Than my stupid brain.
I'm glad we figured this out. You're not trying to think Zach's trying to, I want this ghost to think I'm cool.
I'm hitting on George.
Yeah, there's definitely some paranormal stuff happening in this house. But
Absolutely.
it's, very, very old house.
Yeah.
Wasn't from 1906. It was impacted from 1906.
Yeah, so it's older than 1906.
What are you thinking? He says that he was wearing an 1800 suit. I would not be able to identify that.
I have a very distinct image of that.
Was it monocle?
It's involved, yes. But like a tuxedo jacket with like tails and like a almost like a fluffy ruffle front
Okay.
and straight pants.
Like that's 1800s right there.
I'm thinking about horse riding.
All right, let's move on to our fourth and final story. This one is fun. There's three little short experiences here, and I'm including it because the final one is sleep paralysis,
Okay.
but there's two encounters before it that are not, and I'm excited to talk about these two things in this episode because it doesn't fit the episode, but I'm making it fit.
Okay.
So this is from Kieran from New Hampshire and Vermont, and this makes me really happy. Kieran wrote these in chronological order,
Okay.
and he said, I
Great.
did that for Tyler. I just want you to know, Kieran, that it is appreciated.
That's how you know Kieran's been around for a while.
Yes, that's how you know, and I appreciate you. So let's get into their first encounter. This is a UFO experience.
Okay.
I'm so happy to talk about an alien experience during any episode.
You should have saved it for an UFO. Another.
No,
Okay.
I want Kieran to get it all out.
All right. All right.
And that's so yeah. So the first encounter is UFO. So Kieran was starting high school around 2008, which makes him 2 years younger than me,
Yeah.
and got really into aliens and ufology. They were really inspired by the History Channel because I know you're a history person, but you know that they want people to watch their show, so they just make it a ton of alien shit.
I mean, now, yeah.
Now, they saw the charts.
They're like, oh, they like it when we play aliens. And then
Yeah.
they're like, get that guy with the hair on.
So Kieran admits that they were more interested in alien theories and personal encounters than historical beliefs on how they may have altered human history.
Definitely
Which-
fair.
I feel that. All of that said, Kieran didn't go out of their way to try and find aliens. He wasn't going to go all Tom DeLonge out there. But that didn't stop the universe from presenting him with his own experience. So one late spring night in his home in New Hampshire, he decided to lay out on his deck and do some stargazing. I'm feeling Kieran, by the way. Like, I'm down with this.
Yeah.
Little stargazing.
It sounds like you guys would be a good hang.
Yeah. So his parents had just gone through a divorce, and his mom worked late. She was actually the principal.
Oh,
so
really?
She had late nights. So it was just him alone, and he was laying out on the deck looking up at the stars, which is something him and his dad used to do.
Mm-hmm.
Him and his dad, I think they would sleep out there. Like they would lay out on the deck, sleep, and under the stars. It's kind of like it's glamping, but not like the locationally glamping.
Would you crash on your deck? Would you do that?
There's a lot of bugs on my deck.
There are a lot of bugs on your deck. If you got like a bug zapper, you feel bad about that.
No, yeah, I don't feel bad. I just, every now and then I think about. Sometimes I do like to stand on my deck and stargaze, and I like to sometimes sit out there with the twinkle lights on. But every now and then I just think about that huge ass spider that came down when we were having a production meeting out there.
Giants. That was a Shelob looking spider.
Yeah, and he's just like, "Oh, you guys are a new Patreon tier. That sounds cool."
No, you do go out there with your. I swear to God, you put your hands under your hips and you look up. You're like entering dad mode. It's very funny.
Yeah, with my fanny pack.
Yes.
That makes me think of the Twilight Zone. The monster in Maple Street, where they're like trying to figure out who the alien is or the bad person, the monster.
Yeah.
Because there's all this stuff's happening on the street. And they're like, well, that one guy, I sometimes see him outside just staring at the stars. And it's like, is he trying to talk to someone? I'm like, every time I'm out there looking at the stars, I'm like, someone might just be looking at me like, what's he doing?
Alien motherfucker.
You can't really see too many stars. Did see the Aurora Borealis though. But anyway, sorry. Back to your story, Kieran. So he's staring up at the sky, and his eyes catch a little bit of movement. And initially, he thinks it's a satellite, which I would too. But it got incredibly bright for a few seconds, and then it got dimmer, which is, that's fine. But then it started moving backwards in the direction that it came in. And the brightness, the dimming, honestly, that doesn't mean too much to him. But the change in direction, that was puzzling. And he wasn't scared, but it left him with an uneasy feeling, enough to make him get up off the deck and go back inside. Since that night, he's experienced similar sightings in the sky. Lots of dots of light that go bright and dim and change direction. It wasn't an every night thing, but it was frequent enough that he couldn't tell you exactly how many times it happened. But here's a sighting that he had with his dad. Quote, there was also one UFO I saw with my dad. The time I saw a UFO with my dad was shortly after my first encounter with a UFO, as in a few months later in Vermont. As I mentioned earlier, my dad and I would go to sleep on the deck, and it was the perfect night to do so. Even though it was shortly after my experience with a UFO, considering how tame that was, all things considered, I wasn't really that scared to try sleeping on the deck. It was a beautiful night and a big glowing full moon. It did make it hard to see other stars, but the moon itself was worth the price of admission. That said, as I looked at the moon, suddenly a large shape crossed over it. It was large enough to cover the entire moon. It was a large cylinder-shaped object and kind of darkish in color. I couldn't make anything out more than that because as quickly as it appeared, the object vanished. I was really quite calm about the experience, as much as I could be, but I did just see a UFO a few months prior, and considering that I'm pretty used to strange stuff in general, the experience was like oh wow, that just happened. But my dad, on the other hand, screamed, did you just see that? All I could say was, yep, that's the second one I've seen in just a few months. Unquote.
Pretty chill.
That is the type of UFO experience I would like. Like, I've seen a light, I've seen something, but like to actually see the ship like that, that's perfect. There's no fear. You're not getting abducted. You're just seeing something you can't explain.
I want to see it closer. I'm greedy.
Let's start with covering the moon. Yeah. We got to see that totality. He saw totality from an alien.
That's pretty cool.
So our second story from Kieran is spirits. Quote, I've had various encounters with spirits in my life. That said, I usually just get feelings from them. Most of my encounters have been positive or bittersweet, but there was one that was a little more menacing. It was January in Vermont. I just moved in my own place, so it was a year after I'd started college, around 2013. Although at that time, I decided to take a gap year. I gained about 20 pounds and decided it was time to lose some weight. So I started to work out and go on runs. Considering that it was winter, my running time just happened to be at night, and this was no different. The moon was full, though, and it wasn't too late. Part of my run had me going through the woods after leaving the residential area that I lived in. I got into the woods when I got that feeling like I was being watched. I don't necessarily feel terrified or anything. I was just a little curious. But all of a sudden, the wind picked up, and I heard the leaves rustle and something else. Coming from the woods was the sound of whispering. This, combined with the feeling that I was getting, was enough for me to cut my run short. I immediately turned around and ran back home. Unquote.
I would not run through the woods at night. I would not walk through the woods at night.
I would walk through the woods at night. I wouldn't run because you trip and fall. I mean, it's a safety hazard. It's not like I don't think my mind would necessarily go paranormal. Probably the most dangerous thing I do in my day-to-day life, even though I live in a nice area, not like a fancy area, but just like a chill. Like
yeah, it's pretty residential.
Is I walk with my AirPods in transparency mode, of course. But I do walk listening to.
What's transparency mode?
On the AirPods.
What is that? I have normal ass AirPods. So I don't got the fancy ones.
I'm sorry. So there's either noise cancellation or like if you're on a treadmill, it just makes it quiet. Like me and producer Ben, called each other after we got them one time as a gift, and we're like, "This is so weird." It's like he was like, "I can't hear my fan at all." I'm like, "I can't hear the treadmill at all." So if I'm on a treadmill, or when I go on airplanes, like when I would travel for work, I'd always put an noise cancellation mode. But there's also transparency mode where it's actually like you hear better than if you have earbuds in. Yeah. It actually makes it so you hear better.
Really?
It's
kind of interesting.
It's like the spectrum of like transparencies you hear the best. And then there's just no mode. You just have earbuds in, so you have a little bit of dimming. And then the noise cancellation.
Okay, that's interesting. I didn't know that.
And this is not sponsored at all by AirPods or anything like that. I'm just saying, like, I probably shouldn't walk with AirPods at night. But I do.
Because of cars?
Or anything.
I mean, I'm not going to walk out there bare ears. Bare ears out there.
Naked.
Listen to the woods. No thanks.
So let's get to Kieran's sleep paralysis episode, because this is the build-up.
That's why we're here.
That's why we're here.
Came to the show for this.
Yep. So Kieran learned about sleep paralysis around 2019, 2020 or so.
Okay.
Read about it and also learned about it from school, which is dope.
From school?
He was a biologist major. He was a biology major.
Okay, I get that.
One of the things he remembers discussing was how your muscles lock up in sleep to prevent you from hurting yourself. Beyond school, he looked into it and the theories surrounding it for himself because he found it pretty fascinating. And shortly after this, he had his first experience. In his words, quote, "This is most likely because it was on my mind and I've always been a lucid dreamer and therefore partly conscious during sleep. I have to say though, the experience was tame. I woke up and couldn't move, so I thought, oh, okay, this is sleep paralysis. So I relaxed and focused on letting my muscles move again, and shortly after, I could. A few months later, I was talking to my brother about it, and he mentioned his experiences with sleep paralysis. Unfortunately for him, it's a much bigger issue, and he experiences it almost nightly, although he's developed ways to not experience it. Shortly after that, I had another experience with sleep paralysis. This time, however, I started to see a shadow person out of the corner of my eye. It never fully formed, though, because I thought, that isn't real. It's just a trick of my mind, and it can't hurt me. I just need to relax and focus on letting my muscles move. And thankfully, with that thought, the shadow disappeared. I couldn't move right away, but I pushed a bit, and after a few seconds, I could move again." Unquote. Very, very lucid dreaming-like, where it seems like he has power. But if this is paranormal, it almost does show that, like, the scientific side would say that you were able to overcome it. Like you didn't give into your brain and your hallucinations and dive into that rabbit hole. But on the paranormal side, it's almost like you didn't allow the entity.
Didn't give it energy. Yeah. This is exactly what I was thinking. I was like, you just didn't give it energy. It didn't have anything to draw upon.
I think, he's older here than Zachariah.
Yeah.
Zachariah tried doing this, but he was aware he was afraid.
He also had been seeing ghosts.
That's true. He had more of a reason. Well, I don't know. I mean, Kieran has his stories too.
That's true.
But Zachariah was like, I am going to act cool, but I'm very afraid. Where Kieran was like, this is fine. This is just my body. I learned about this, the muscles. And it worked, but it's also like
different perspectives, different kind of. It's interesting.
So that is our episode on the listener submitted sleep paralysis stories. Let's talk about it in the discussion. All right, before we get to the discussion, we like to stop the episode and thank our newest patrons who, as of the recording of this episode, include Jaime, Darren, Tanian, Duo, Kyle, and Eddie. Eddie, you slipped in day of. I already wrote this out, had all my notes ready to go, emailed to myself. and I saw you come in, and I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm not going to do him dirty.
I'm glad you came in.
Eddie, you literally had me go back to my document, write your name in, resend it to myself, but I'm glad you're here. One thing I want to shout out, because it's recent, but there's more to it.
Yes, please.
Bizarre news, right?
Bizarre news.
Bizarre news. So if you're on Patreon, you already know about bizarre news. That's been a thing in a different format.
Yes.
The way we're doing it now, there's
It's a
video.
little different now.
It's more like we're anchors. It's fun. We're putting that fun element to it. So y'all know about it on Patreon, and you see that we just released it on our main feed now. But if you're on Patreon, you get more.
It's extra.
If you listen on our main feed, you get 5 bizarre news stories every single month. But all those of you on Patreon, you get an extra 3 stories every month for a total of 8.
Coming at you with 8 bizarre news stories.
Absolutely. So it's a ton of fun. Charlie, what would you like to highlight from our Patreon menu?
Something I want to talk about is, I think we've talked about it recently, but Beyond the Bizarre, which is where we talk about things going on in life that are not anything to do with the podcast, which inevitably it does come down to the
podcast. Yeah.
But because it's a big part of our lives. But we talk about our lives, our families, our hobbies, our goals. It's a big one.
We take all of our ego and self-indulgent and throw it in one Patreon segment.
Well, if you guys want to hear about us as people, that's where you listen to it.
Yeah, you're not going to find it on social media. I feel bad for
No.
the people that follow us on social media. They're like, when are they going to post again?
Well, we're I don't want to say we're private people. It's not what it is. We're not the most socially conscious people.
No, and we're also I'm an introvert, and it's
Yeah.
I'll have an experience. I'll have a cool experience, and it'll be like on the way home. I'm like, oh, that'd have been a good post.
Yeah, no, I'm
Or
also
the next
pretty
day.
introverted, so it's hard for me to think like what would be something that people might want to hear about.
I literally have to make a list for this. Like when something cool happens, I add it to a note on my phone to make sure I don't forget it, because otherwise I'll be like, well, same shit.
Yeah,
Even though I hate that mentality, same shit, different day. I don't truly believe that. I don't want anyone to think that I believe that. But it just gets lost in routine and schedules that sometimes, like, for example, when we post an episode, we're mentally so moved from that episode.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, when we record Beyond the Bizarre, it's like I don't want to, in that moment, have to remember everything that's happened last month. So I have to
right.
write things down.
It's just how we are. But that's Beyond the Bizarre.
Those are just 2 things. There's many, many more segments, bonus episodes, clips, community building events that we do. So go check that out. But in the meantime, let's get back to this episode. All right, so we have 4 listener submissions. Do you want to go by one and believe them or unbelieve them?
I guess so. Yeah, let's just go from the first down.
All right. So first story, we got Madison.
Yeah. Yes.
Happened
That was
everywhere.
very interesting.
Had like this hat man.
She's very sensitive. I
Yes. I think everyone's stories that we got today are
think. Sensitive.
sensitive people. But there was that the creepiest experience she had when she was in the hotel room.
Yeah. I know you.
It's tough for me because like I know I'm a little bit less believable on sleep paralysis as a paranormal event. And I don't want that to negatively being like voting lower on the scale.
Yeah.
For all these people.
So lower on the scale on this point is more scientific, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, like it's the brain. But that doesn't, but it's what makes it easy for me is that most of these are coupled with real paranormal experiences.
It's true.
It's like
And really you mean not sleep paralysis.
yeah, sleep paralysis is paired with something else, which
Yeah.
gives credence to
Mhm.
the sleep paralysis.
Does.
But it means that I don't have to go like unbelievable or skeptical for all these stories.
Yeah.
Because that would just make me feel like a big old Grinch.
But this one, it's harder for me to go fully believable with it, but also
Why do you say that?
I was getting there. But also, I do think she's very sensitive. I think it's hard for me to go fully believable because they're so varied,
Mm-hmm.
I guess. But also, you could just say it's different spirits, right? I wonder if she is seeing things around her that are changing, or if different spirits see her. I don't know how else to phrase that.
Like if it kind of feels like internal versus external. Is that what
Yeah.
you're saying? Like is it
Yeah, is she making them up, or is she in her brain, or are they real?
So you're saying it's like the way that we'd want to view any story where it's not they're lying, or is it really happening to her, or is she just imagining it but believing it?
Yes,
Well, we could do that for every episode we do and every person.
we could. It's an easy out, I think. I don't know. What do you think on this one?
I go viable. She doesn't have as many stories outside the sleep. Like normally it does happen during sleep, but I mean, she was being grabbed, and then she had that really terrifying experience where all the people were in the room and like, I know you.
I know you.
Yeah. Yeah, there weren't too many non-sleeping aspects to that one, so I'm going to go viable.
I go skeptical. It's more in her imagination, and she's kind of just believing it. And that's okay. I'm not saying, I'm not negating all of her experiences. That's not what I'm saying. I just think some of them can come down to more just the scientific aspect of sleep paralysis.
I think what makes it different for me is that when she was in a different room, she had a different experience. It's kind of like controlling your variables in a scientific experience. So you would assume, yeah. So you would assume it's different. I know this is actually what I presented during the episode.
You don't have to defend your viable.
But also there is some of these stories do come with like a bit of trauma. Like she was having miscarriages.
That's true.
And the Kieran's parents got divorced.
Mm-hmm.
So it is kind of like. But then there's two sides to that. It's like you're in a different mental state, but also the idea that these things could be feeding on that energy.
Absolutely.
All right. I feel a little bit of an inclination to join you in skeptical, but I'm going to leave it viable now.
Okay.
So then we have Alex's story.
Yeah. Interesting.
Was this the big dog?
It was a big dog. Big dog. Oh.
Big dog.
Big
red
dog
light.
hunting. That's right.
I'm going to go skeptical because I think a little bit of a one-off experience.
Yeah.
And I think it could be, we were kind of explaining it away. I'm not just going skeptical to justify my last one either. I think it could be like, I think it's aspects of his life that were brought into this moment.
The dog, the
dog, the owner, the walking
also
dog.
It's in an apartment too, right? It could just be someone hearing somebody leaving the apartment.
In your mind, just making it something bigger.
Mm-hmm.
And just imagine this jacked ass, like, hellhound, like, just, hey, throw the goddamn stick.
Yeah, exactly.
What about you?
I don't think shadow people have cameras.
Yeah.
I'm also going to go skeptical on this one because I do think you're right. It's stimuli throughout his own life. I think he even was skeptical on this one. So
he was, actually.
Yeah.
All right, then we got Zachariah in San Francisco, chilling with Brock Purdy. I'm going to go believable, but not because of the sleep paralysis. I think dude lives in a haunted house.
Dude, the
house is haunted.
The idea that his friends seeing the ghost behind him.
Yes. That's
going to live in my head forever.
That's a very good point. That is so horror movie.
Yes.
Where like you got friends laughing and they're playing like Xbox or something, and then they got the live feed, and then you just see behind them and just this person. Like that's scary for the friends, you know?
Like, dude, what is behind you?
And just that like feeling like I'm not gonna look because I know they're messing with me, but I just want to check to be sure.
And then he sees in the camera.
Like, and the friends are like, go get a picture.
I know.
Even though like screenshot your
camera.
Yeah, come on.
Yeah.
Command Alt 4? Command Option 4? It's
Option.
Command Option 4, I think, if you're on a Mac. I like whether or not his sleep process is a byproduct of this and it's just his brain playing tricks on him. Like, well, your life's pretty creepy during the day. Why not make it creepier during the night?
Yeah, you got everything going on.
Dude lives in a haunted house.
I go believable too because same reason.
All right, so finally, our final listener submission from Kieran. We got a UFO experience. We got the ghost, the whispering, which is like, that might be one of the most intriguing things we talked about the whole day. And it was so fleeting.
Yeah.
But it may I'm always going to have a little pull with that because it reminds me of William's story.
Yeah. It's a scary environment to be in the woods at night and then hearing whispering on top of that.
Yeah.
Pass.
Like, it's such it's like when the first time you watch a movie you love.
Yeah.
Like anything related to William's story, The Great Dismal Swamp Mystery, episode 6, is just so fond in my heart.
Yeah.
And like he sent an audio clip for his submission.
He did.
And hearing him discuss like being outside in the woods and hearing his voice and it sounded like his sister and his father.
Yeah.
It's just like when you get in like when you start getting entities that are using your name and are whispering, it's just like, and it literally could have been like two kids messing around, saw someone, heard someone coming, and they're like, hide. And they're like, oh man, he's coming. He sees us. You know, it could have been something like that. It could have been completely, but I mean, he got a feeling too.
He did.
But
there's also the feeling with it too, I think, is more impactful.
But, okay, so the sleep paralysis, I don't know if he believes it. You know, I feel like he learned the biological side of it and used that knowledge to He acknowledges he started seeing a shadow entity,
Yeah.
but he also was able to be like, it's all good. I'm going to let my muscles relax. I'm going to go back to sleep. Peace out, Shadow Man. He's like, you want to see my dog? It's like, I'm good. Okay.
Yeah, I think you're right. He is much more scientific mind about this. And because of that, not much really happened with it.
True.
And also there's the genetic factor too. His brother deals with this also.
Yeah. He Negan that. I will shut that shit down.
Yeah.
But we're also rating his stories. So UFO, the ghost, and the sleep paralysis. I think the sleep paralysis is very, very low.
Yeah. I mean, all of them together.
So I can't do believable because I don't think so viable.
Viable. It's got to be viable. Because I believe the alien ship.
The alien.
Ship, not ship.
The alien and the ghost are up there. Combined, they're a viable, or pretty good viable, believable viable. And then the I don't believe I think he knows the science of his experience. And also, let me just be clear now and say this. By me saying I think there's a world where not every sleep paralysis is the same. Like,
yeah, I agree with that.
An entity could cause you to have a terrible moment when you're sleeping. You know what I mean? Like, who am I to say that there's no demon, ghost, shadow figure that can make you feel frozen? But that doesn't mean every experience is that, because the mind is very powerful.
Like, I wonder if it is physically the same every time, but I wonder if it can be triggered by different things.
Yeah.
Either by your mind or by an entity.
I don't know. I don't know the percentages. Like, I know 73% of you are listening on Spotify. I don't know the percentage of people that it's their brain messing with them, or is it some entity that is, but it's like, does the entity do it to you, or does it just find that opportune moment where it's just like traveling room to room and it's like, this person looks frozen?
I mean, that's definitely the conversation we had last time.
It's like the hag has like a list of people. Like, it's like
Santa.
It's a route. It's like, I got to go to Vermont.
Yeah.
I got to go to San Francisco. So I go viable?
Yeah, I go viable as well.
So that is our episode on the sleep paralysis stories.
My goodness, what a doozy.
Brought to y'all, from y'all. I appreciate you guys. And reminder, if you have a personal paranormal encounter, it can be fleeting. It could be 10 pages long. I don't care. Go to believingthebizarre.com. Go to submit your experience. Drop as much information as you can muster in that form, and we'll add it to our Google Drive list, and eventually we will do your episode, and it's going to be a ton of fun, and we love them. And you guys do too. We hear from a lot of you.
These are your favorites.
So, I know. So
cool.
It's rare that we do two of these back to back.
Yeah, we don't often
if
do
you guys like them, we have a lot of them.
Yeah, we do.
We have a lot of listeners. I mean, we're in 2022 territory still, guys. Not all of them, but we're in 2022 territory.
Yeah.
So if you guys really like listener submission stories, let us know on Spotify. If you're listening on Spotify, if you're on Apple, you can leave a review. But let us know if you want more consistent listener submission stories, because we have a lot. It's, no problem for us.
Yeah.
So let us know what you think.
And if you enjoyed the episode and you've listened to the whole back catalog and you're like, what do I do now? There's a whole Patreon. We talked about it a little bit on the Patreon segment, but there's so much more going on Patreon besides just those couple segments. We drop between 5 and 8 things, separate pieces of content a month on Patreon. 5
is like when a supermodel says, like, I'm not that pretty. We do more than 5
yeah.
every month. Speaking of, though, like Spotify is the place to comment specifically on every episode. So here's a couple comments we got on our last episode, which was, it was
the contorted entity Hugo.
Contorting entity Hugo.
Yeah.
Cherokee Weldon says, "Oi, ye be best believing me. Ye podcast has me timbers be shivering."
I like that we got a comment from an actual pirate.
Sarah says, "Nuh-uh. If I saw something crawling on my ceiling or near it doing gymnastics like that, I'd squash it like a spider." Nope.
Yeah.
Cutest cryptid, not a deer, says, "First comment, love listener subs. You guys should really do a big compilation of them. Keep up the good work." We've done 7 of those, but that's okay. So that's awesome. We appreciate all the comments. It's a lot of fun. Like Charlie said, if you want more, if you're all caught up on our episodes and you need more content to fill your dishwashing and dog walking and commutes to work, Patreon is there waiting for you with content going all the way back to May of 2021.
Which is a while ago at this point.
But thank you so much. Thank you for listening to the podcast that will never experience sleep paralysis because Charlie doesn't remember his dreams and I never go to bed. But as always, I appreciate you. I'm Tyler.
And I'm Charlie.
And catch us next week on Believing the Bizarre.
A podcast as bizarre as you are.